Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and today we're going to do things a little different. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I generally interview some amazing guests, and I've kind of been tiptoeing into the world of doing a couple of solos, right? Kind of branching out, if you will. And I have really felt called to share some insight, some patterns that I have noticed when it has come to my guests that have been on here, and just some things that I personally feel like a lot of us are looking to hear. We're looking for that validation, or we're looking for that small light bulb moment to say, okay, I knew that I was on the right path, or I knew that I had thought that before. This is the direction that I want to go. So I really want to kind of shift this conversation today to be a little bit more of a conversation with yourself. And here's the reason why I kind of feel like I am called to share this message. So hear me out. I'm not going to get all woo-woo and everything. I have been noticing, and I'm sure many of you have, that we're in a world where there is a lot of division. There is a lot of angry people. There are a lot of hurt souls, and hurt people, right? And there's also a lot more conversations around what we have been through, what may have triggered us, what we were raised in, and how that affects who we are to this day. Now, as someone who has a background of 10 years in a domestic abusive relationship, who not only got herself out of that, but brought her two children out of that as well at the ages of 7 and 10, we all have trauma. We all have stories. Now, here's something that I've been corrected on, and I appreciate this correction because generally at this point, I would say, now I know that people have had it a lot worse than I have. And I know that there are other people that say that about the things that they have been through as well. And what I have learned is by doing so, we are downplaying what it is that we went through. Now, are there people that have suffered greatly, that has impacted their lives or caused decisions that have really taken them down a dark path? Absolutely. And I'm not discounting that whatsoever. The reason that I bring this up is because I think that it is very important for us to also validate our own pain and the things that we have been through. Now, let me add to that. What I mean by that is not, I have been through this. These are the things that have happened to me. This is the reason why I've made these decisions. Poor me, feel sorry for me, do things for me. Don't you want to help me? The quote unquote victim mentality. Now, I myself am very guilty of being in that space. Right after I came out of that relationship, I was completely defeated. I was fighting in court on and off for 4.5 years. I lost the battle of keeping my son away from my ex at that time. I lost the battle of justice being done for my oldest one, which he was abusive to as well. I lost the battle, I felt like, when it came to him being put in prison or having to serve the time that I felt like he deserved. And so there was a lot of poor me moments. And I don't necessarily mean that we say that out loud. Think of it this way. How many times have you been in a situation, let's say at work, and as you are dealing with things, you're like, oh, I just can't. I'm so overwhelmed. And, I'm dealing with this personally and da 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 da. And you start spewing. And what you're doing is you're really kind of looking for an excuse because you don't want to have to deal with whatever is going on. And I get that, right? We all do that. That is something human. That is something perfectly normal. And when we continue to utilize the things that we have been through as continual excuses for why we can't get things done, why we cannot grow, why we cannot raise our children a certain way, why we cannot act a certain way, you are then playing into the role of being a victim. You are allowing the things that you have been through to ultimately control who you are. And that's something that I allowed to happen in my life for years. Now, I thought that I was completely out of that control, right? He doesn't have control of me. I'm not going to let him have control of me. I'm not going to cry over him. I'm going to continue to do what I need to do, so on and so forth, right? That kind of hyper independence that we put out there, that strong face, right? That I'm going to handle it. But inside, we're quietly screaming. But what happens is those excuses and those patterns and those things that we've been through continue to play parts in our lives. What I choose to do today is to ultimately not allow my past circumstances define the direction that I want to take my life now. What I am saying is, we have all been through some shit. You may feel like you have been through the worst shit. And if that is your experience, I completely honor that. If you have been through something and you're like, yeah, but I know somebody else had it worse, it is absolutely okay to acknowledge that and do not downplay what you have been through. You are robbing yourself from being able to heal from that experience, acting as if it wasn't that big of a deal. I've seen other people be worse. Own your story. Honor your story. Because in that is where we begin to grow. Now, kind of back to my beginning point, we are in a world where we don't feel seen or we don't feel heard or we feel like we need to put everything out there on all the platforms and all over the place to make sure that people understand our views. And I understand that to an extent. Because you see, back then, when I was very unhealed, when I was in this space of victim mentality, where everything happened to me and the world was absolute crap, I spoke out a lot more. Not because I just needed people to hear me, but just because I don't think I had been heard for so long. I felt like I needed to voice my opinion. But I wasn't voicing it in a way that was calm, that was open to discussion. It was in a very triggered way, a very trauma-filled way. And so what I mean is when we can't openly have a conversation about differences, when we can't openly discuss with someone what their beliefs are and what my beliefs are, and understand that we may not come to an agreement, but that's okay because I can still love you for you, and hopefully you can still love me for me. When you're not at that point, when you're at a point where you feel like you have to defend every single aspect of your being, of what you've been through and make sure your point is heard. You are in a space of drama. You're not in a space of healing. And you're allowing those circumstances to continue to control your life. Now, some of this might be because it's patterns, right? If you're in a specific situation, there are a lot of beliefs, there are a lot of thoughts, there are a lot of things and perceptions in the way that we see the world that are sculpted based on what we have been through. Here's the hard truth to all of that. No matter what you have been through, and I wholeheartedly apologize for all of your pain, it is your responsibility to heal from that. You didn't deserve it. You didn't. If you were a child of an abusive home, you did not deserve that. If you were a young adult of an abusive partner, you did not deserve that. If you were someone that has gone through XYZ, that has made you feel broken, that has killed your spirits, you did not deserve that. And it is your right to live your life in a way that you want to. Not in a way that was shown to you, not in a way that was handed to you, but in a way that you choose to live your life. We make choices every single day. Now, sometimes that choice is, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to. Sometimes that choice is, I don't know where that's going to lead me, and that scares me, so I'm going to stay here. That is a choice. You may see it in certain circumstances that it's not a choice, but it is. I chose to stay in a relationship for 10 years because I didn't see a way out, because I didn't know what would happen to my children, because I didn't know where we would go or if I would lose them, because X, Y, Z. I own those choices. I do not regret them. I do not hate myself for them. I made those choices in that moment with the knowledge that I had at that time. So please understand, I am not talking down. I am not degrading. You may have made some choices that you are not proud of because of a situation that you were in. You may have made some choices that you don't agree with because now you have grown up and you've realized, wow, I could have done this. Don't hate yourself for it. You could have been in a space where your brain literally could not function, could not logically think of a way to handle a situation. That is completely normal. How many times have people been in situations, a burning building, a car wreck, and they don't respond in the way that you would expect them to? Why? Because the logic part of your brain shuts down when your body feels like it needs to survive. There is nothing wrong with that. My question is, do you continue to choose fear and the same response system, or do you choose to do something different? We are constantly teaching ourselves every single day. When you are staring at your phone and scrolling through all of that drama filled on the internet, you are teaching yourself to be a part of that. And you can say, oh, no, there's no way. I know the difference. You might think you know the difference. Your brain disagrees with you. Did you know that there is scientific evidence that shows that your brain does not actually know what is real and what is not? Now, what I mean by that is if we are filling our heads with garbage, movies, drama-filled TV, social media drama, your brain does not know that you are not in that situation. So while you are thinking, oh, okay, well, this is their life, this is what's going on, your brain does not make that connection. So here's a scientific proof. There was actually a study that was done, which is really cool. You can look it up. They took a group of athletes. Now, these are Olympic athletes. And what they did is they decided to do a study on their brain. We wanted to see how the brain and the nerve endings work within the body. So what they did was they hooked them up to a bunch of machines and they had them run on a treadmill and do some of the things that they would be planning to do at the Olympics, right? So getting them set up for it, physically preparing for it, right? Then they took that same group and they stuck all those electrodes on them and they had them sit in a chair and they had them visualize what they would be doing on that day. Now, here's the really cool part. Their brain and the nerves reacted the same. No movement, no physical exertion, but it reacted the same. Because in the mind's eye, that's what they were doing. Now, I'm not against TV and scary movies and all that good stuff. But what I am saying is, how much of that do you allow in your life? Again, I am completely guilty. I used to love absolutely any scary movie I could get my hands on. All right? Any horror film, all that stuff. I used to love that. I also loved watching certain shows on TV that were just full of drama. Loved it, right? You find yourself like, I know that character shouldn't be doing this, and they just need to call that person. You get yourself involved in it. Yeah, I've done that. What I realized was that was also what I was seeking in the outside world. And I got tired of that. So I deleted a lot of that from my life. My social media feed, I don't even know half of the things that are going on in this world unless somebody tells me. Because I don't want it to be filled with drama, with other people talking terrible about people, with people talking down and saying that we should believe this way, and then other people saying we should believe that way, and people pulling articles from wherever saying this is the truth. Because nowadays, it is extremely hard to know where that difference lies. And I don't want to be influenced because I watched somebody else's stuff and then I took their truth as mine. So if you've been following the podcast, and if you're not and you're new, please go take a listen. The last probably half a year since January, every conversation that I've had with a guest on my show tends to be leading back to a couple of common denominators. But one of the biggest ones that I have seen is us coming back to ourselves. And so I feel like this is a message that we in the world are needing to hear right now. How do you come back to yourself? Are you aware of what you are listening to and what you are taking into your body? Are you aware that you are just scrolling through people's stuff and leaving mean comments on there to be heard? Or are you choosing to immerse yourself in your life and enjoy the people that are around you? Maybe your children, if you have them. maybe the outdoors. What are you choosing to fill your life with? That makes more of a difference than I can ever explain to you. But as someone who never saw the bright side of things, who constantly complained, who always blamed other people for my problems, for why I felt that way, for all of that, to be on the other side where I am at now, I am so more at peace in my life than I have ever been. And what I realized was the ultimate control, which is what I have always been searching for, because I didn't have control in my life for so long. The ultimate control was how I decided to handle situations and things that were dealt to me. Now, I say this because, again, I feel that we're in a space where a lot of us have lost ourselves, or we have gotten in such a habit of blaming the news and the people online and our bosses, X, Y, Z, that we are not taking responsibility for our own stuff. And I get it. It is a lot easier to blame others, right? Oh, well, this was because of them. Well, this was because of them. And that's why I feel this way. It's so much easier to do that. It is a lot harder to take ownership, even when you know that you were not at fault. Now, I'm not saying that you need to take their responsibility. I, in no way, shape, or form, take the responsibility of what my ex did to me or what he did to my children. What I do take responsibility for is how I choose to live my life day in and day out, and how I choose to raise my children. Because ultimately, my kids are going to grow up and they are going to have wives. So I had the choice. I could choose to be in this victim mentality, to just be upset, to be irritated all the time, which I did for years. And my kids saw that. So I'm not taking myself out of this equation at all. And I realized about 6 years ago, I could not keep doing that. That my responsibility was to give my kids a chance to be able to do things differently in the world so that they can treat their person differently. If they choose to have kids, they can treat their kids differently. And they can also choose to treat other people around them differently in the world. Because what I noticed with my kids is because I was a very angry person, they were also very angry people. Because I always blamed other people for their problems, they blamed other people for their problems. Now we have conversations about what is their responsibility and what they have control of and what they don't. Because sometimes that's just the facts. I can be totally pissed off about some of the things that are going on in this world. And there are things that do upset me, that hurt my heart to know that this is where we have found ourselves. And I also know that by me commenting online, that by me texting people on there, giving my opinion, is not going to change anything. Because an angry comment or an angry video or anything like that is not going to change somebody's opinion. It's not going to help them see your side. You've immediately come in as defensive. So guess what? They're going to defend back. And this is why it's important for us to come back to us. so that we can have that ultimate control, to be able to control the things that we can and let go of the things that we cannot. There is a wonderful book by Brianna Wiest, if I'm saying that right. It's called The Mountain Is You. I've got tabs and stuff all over it. I have taken so many quotes out of this book and so many reminders out of this book. I've read it twice, and I get something different out of it every single time. And before I started this podcast, I felt called to grab this book. And then I felt called to pick out a quote. So I looked at my tabs and I grabbed the first one that said quote that called to me. And I thought, okay, this is what we're going to tell everybody. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is for you. You are showing up as you are today and taking what's yours, not what belongs to some imaginary version of yourself, not what you think the world thinks you're worthy of. You are here now. That is true healing. In fact, the universe does not allow perfection. Without breaks and gaps, there would be no growth. Nature depends on imperfection. Fault lines make mountains, star implosions become supernovas, and the death of one season creates the rebirth of the next. You are not here to live up to the exact expectation that you've mustered up in your head. You are not here to do everything precisely right and precisely on time. To do so would require stripping your life of spontaneity, curiosity, and awe. In a world where social media and online presence and movies and superstars get to show all of the amazing things, we are torn between, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? Did I do it on time or am I behind? There's so many societal quote unquote norms that we all look to follow. And I hate that because I myself have found myself feeling shamed and guilty for thinking that I was not where I was supposed to be in a moment because of what we have been told and what we have been taught. And now that social media and this online presence and this digital age is such a huge component of our lives, I personally feel like it has intensified our ability to love ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people on social media that do an amazing job of sharing the good and the bad, to honor their whole selves, to help other people understand that they are not alone, to create a space of community and support. They are out there. And unfortunately, there are a lot more that are trying to show only the good. And you were thinking, well, that doesn't matter. I don't care, right? I'm not paying attention to them anyway. Yeah, you are. We all do. You ever scrolled past somebody and you stop real quick and you're like, oh, they just get to travel the world. How awesome would that be? God, I wish I could do that. There's no way I'll ever be able to do that. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I have to raise kids. blah, blah, blah. So even if it's just for that spark of a moment, you've taken something that should just be beautiful and you kind of shame on yourself, for lack of better terms, right? Again, I've done this. I have done this. I want you to understand that shaming on yourself is doing no one any good. You're not helping you, you're not helping those around you, and you're honestly taking away the joy that you could have in your life. I shamed and guilted myself for years because of my abusive situation, because of what my kids had to endure. I felt like a horrible mother. Now, did I love my kids? Absolutely. Did I do my best to give them whatever I could? Absolutely. Did I try to make up for what we didn't get to have when I got out of that relationship? Absolutely. Which might not have been the best answer either. But I put myself down. And because I put myself down so much, I got to the point to where I felt like I needed to continually make up for my quote unquote mistakes. It wasn't until my kids became teenagers that I realized that they had received this world experience at an age that I wish they didn't have to experience. And at the same time, because of that, they had an opportunity to be a support system for their other friends. That's probably been one of the coolest things that could have happened by us having conversations, by me explaining to my kids it's okay to have emotions, to feel like you have failed, but to pick yourself back up and try again. They have been able to do that for their friends. Do you know how cool that is as a parent? When my kids are with their girlfriends and I hear conversations, no, I'm not sneaking in and listening. I overhear stuff because they talk in front of me all the time. But when I hear things like, it's okay, you've got this. If this is what you really want to do, then do it. The support that my kids get to now give to other people at such a young age, something that I didn't experience until I was in my 30s. That is something I am very proud of. And that came from them seeing a very different world at a younger age and watching their mom work through healing from that. And that took a lot of vulnerability and a lot of honesty with my kids. I told my kids, I feel like a crappy mom. I feel horrible that I even let you all go through that. And you know what my kid told me? He said, how about you let us be the judge of that? And I thought, oh, well, this can go one of two ways. Because you see, my kids didn't have the same experience. Why I thought that I couldn't do anything for them, my kids saw a mom who was constantly trying on their behalf. And this is why understanding that everyone has their own perception in how they see things is so important. Because no two people see things exactly the same. It's based on their experiences, the things that they've been through, the belief systems they grew up with, and whatever personal development they have done. And that's the beauty of this world. So, my question to you is, do you choose to embrace your imperfections? Do you choose to embrace yourself and love yourself for everything? Or do you choose to continue to allow other people's narratives and outside opinions dictate and control how you live your life? Because you only have one, and you're right here, right now. I don't care if you are 50 years old and starting your life over. Freaking go for it. Do you know how many people have come up from nothing? That doesn't define you. It's just a part of your story. The question is, do you continue writing in the same book, filling out the same chapter? Or do you put an ending to that book and start a new one? That's the choice that you have every single day. And for me, this is why it is so important to have these conversations on here, to speak with people from all over the world that have been through things that I know people listening have experienced, so that we can create support and community and an understanding that we are actually more similar than we think. But for some reason, it's just been this talk and conversation about how we need to be so different. And I need to be loved because I'm different. Just be you. Just be you. The moment I stopped caring what people thought about me, oh, the moment my world opened up. Those are the moments that I got to learn to be silly all over again, that I got to learn to have an imagination, that I got to learn to dream big because I felt like it today, that I got to run and play in the rain like a child because I love the rain. Okay. That's why I get to bring the energy now that you get to see. Not because I have to put a face on. That's just who I choose to be now. And because of the healing and the processing that I've been through, I get to be in this space and I enjoy being in this space. And I want you to be able to feel what this space feels like as well. So please make your choices for you. Decide where you want to go in life because of you, not because of what somebody is going to validate for you, not because someone is going to think that you're amazing and great because of it. Do what is best for you in whatever moment that you are in your life right now. And then as you continue to grow, love those parts of you that had to make hard choices and hard decisions in a moment where maybe you didn't have all of the knowledge, where you didn't have all the expertise, where you didn't have the time to logically think and understand where you should go next. Love those parts of you because those parts of you taught you lessons so that you could choose to do something different today, so that you can continue to move in a direction that you want to move into. Find you people that you can listen to that will help you grow in your life. Maybe it's a book like this one, The Mountain Is You. Maybe it is a podcast. Maybe it's someone you follow online who's just full of positivity and light and you love listening to it because it makes you feel good. Maybe it's you start telling other people every single day a compliment, how amazing they are, how beautiful they look. I love your shoes. I love your makeup. Build up that positivity in your life, one step at a time, and then watch how it blossoms. No matter where you're at right now, you may feel stuck in the mud, but I promise you, there is a way to get out of it. A lotus does it all the time. They always have, and they continue to do so. And you are just like this earth, connected and ready to blossom as well. So choose your path. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope that you got some amazing takeaways. I would love to know your thoughts. Was there something I missed? Is there something you wish I would talk about a little bit more? Are there conversations you would like to hear me dive into deeper? How do I help you continue to build your own community and feel supported? If you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for listening to me today. And if you've been listening, I appreciate you so much. Please make sure you are following us online at the-lotus-effect.com. You can find me on all the social platforms the same way, or at Kat Polsinelli. And please do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable